Now SES 600, using the work of other auditor. Using the work of other auditor. Remember, actually 299 belonging to another chapter. 600 is belonging to another chapter. We are covering as part of this itself. Okay. So discussed along with this chapter, but covered it in chapter 3, audit strategy. What's the page number? Okay. So SES 600, using the work of other auditor. You know, in other auditor, no, you have something called definitions here. First, if you understand these definitions, that is where the main crux is. Fine. So using the work of other auditor. Look at this, a simple example of entire State Bank of India. The State Bank of India Limited is a company, banking company incorporated under SBI Act directly. Okay. Now, this has 25,000 branches. This has totally 25,000 branches. 19,000 branches are not liable for audit. 19,000 branches are not liable for audit. 6,000 branches, no, they were being audited by branch auditor. Now, apart from this, State Bank of India is also having so many subsidiary companies. Somewhere between 15-20 might have been there. For information, Reliance Industries Limited is having totally 400 group companies. Entire Reliance Industries Limited consolidated financial statement is a consolidation of 400 group companies. Out of that, 160 companies approximately is audited by the principal auditor. The principal main firm is there, right? They themselves audit approximately 160 group company audits. Okay, fine. So entire, it's an outcome of 400 companies, Reliance entire consolidated financial statements. Now, State Bank of India Limited, this has some subsidiary companies, joint ventures, associates, all put together. Approximately some 50 companies would have been there, and these 50 companies were audited by different auditors. These companies are audited by different auditors. Let us call them as yes. Yes refers to subsidiary company auditors. Fine. Now, the State Bank of India, they have to prepare two sets of financial statements. One, consolidated financials. Two, standalone financial statements. Standalone financial statements are what? They are standalone financial statements are nothing but the company head office and all branches put together. Correct? The standalone financial statements are a result of head office plus branches all put together. When we combine them and prepare financial statements, we call them as what? Consolidated financial statement. Right? Now, these 50 subsidiary companies, they also prepare standalone financial statements. For example, SBI Card Limited is there, SBI Life Insurance is there, SBI subsidiaries, State Bank of Mysore, State Bank of Patiala, so many were there. Okay, I don't know whether they're right now continuing or not. I'm just referring as an example. So they also prepare what? Standalone financials, which is audited by Mr. Yes, nothing but subsidiary company auditors. They are audited by subsidiary. Now what is happening here? Again, State Bank of India will prepare consolidated financials, which is nothing but a result of State Bank of India standalone financials and State Bank of India State Bank of India standalone financials plus subsidiary associate joint venture standalone financials. Combine it, you get what? Consolidated financials. Clear? Example understood first? Now let's apply SES 600 on this. What SES 600 is dealing here with this? Now you see, State Bank of India is preparing consolidated financials, which is nothing but State Bank of India standalone financials plus subsidiary, joint venture, associate company standalone financials. Agreed? And State Bank of India is also preparing standalone financials, which is nothing but State Bank of India head office plus 26,000 branches related branch financial statements. Correct? Now this head office is audited by P, principal auditor. Branches are audited by B, branch auditors. Okay, out of them some 19,000 are not subject to audit, leave it. 6,000 branches are subject to audit, that only you consider. Nothing but branches are audited by branch auditors. Now on the entire consolidated financials and standalone financials, SBI has appointed P, Mr. P, who is the principal auditor of the SBI. Yes or no? He only do the audit of head office and he is only giving audit report on standalone financials. And we know very well, an auditor who is giving audit report on standalone shall also give an audit report on consolidated financial statements. Now, Mr. P is giving audit report on consolidated. He is also giving audit report on standalone financial statements. Now, this consolidated financial statements includes standalone financial statements of SBI, different companies, 50 to 60 companies, different companies' financial information. Their financial information is also included in consolidated. But who is giving report on that? P is giving. Did P audited these companies? He didn't audit. But who is giving on the consolidated financials the audit report? P. Where major financial information is not audited by him. Whereas he is only giving the opinion on the consolidated. His audit report only will go to the outsiders. His audit report is what going to outsiders. But he didn't audit subsidiary companies' financial statements whose financial information is included in consolidated financial statements which is audited by P. Correct? Same way, P is giving opinion on standalone financial statements, which includes 26,000 branches related financial information. 90% of the financial data is audited by branch auditors. But to the public, my audit report is going. Their audit report is not going to public. In the public domain, whatever the annual report, audit report, consolidated statements that we are seeing, no, that's audited by whom? Whose name is there? Only 12 auditors' name is given there. 6,000 auditors, branch auditors were there. Their names were not given at all. Because branch audit reports are relevant for us. We want only consolidated financial statements or standalone financial statements, main auditor's report. Now look at the question that is asked here. Now this auditor is giving audit report on standalone, same he is giving audit report on consolidated, whereas the consolidated and standalone financials both are including financial information of various components. Financial information of various components, not audited by principal auditor. Not audited by principal auditor. Now what is the responsibility of principal auditor in this regard? 600 standard is explained. Clear all of you? Now look at this. By the way, in this, from consolidated financial statements point of view, fine, standalone, let us see, standalone financial statements is a process of consolidation of head office plus components. Correct? Components, right? Components means what? From standalone financials point of view, branches and divisions. Whereas from consolidated financial statement is also a consolidation of holding company plus components. Components means what? There, subsidiary company, joint venture, associate company. From consolidation point of view, component means subsidiary company, joint venture, associate company. From standalone financial statements, component means branch or division. Simply, you are giving audit report on standalone financial information or consolidated financial statements, which includes financial information audited by component auditors. Now, look at the definition. What is a component? You see, I've given with the two different colors. Division and branch, one color. Okay, subsidiary, joint venture and other entity, a different color. Why? Subsidiary, joint venture, other entity. These three are termed as component in case of consolidated financial statements. Whereas division and branch, they are termed as component from standalone financial statements perspective. Understood? Now, what are they? Component, no, it might be a division, it might be a branch, it might be a subsidiary, it might be joint venture, it might be other entity. What is happening? Whose financial information is? These components information, no, it is included in financial information which is audited by principal auditor. These components related financial information is included. Where it is included? In the audit, in the financial statements on which principal auditor is giving opinion. Who is principal auditor? Principal auditor is the auditor responsible for reporting on the entity's financial information. Look at the word carefully. The word used is entity, not the component. Principal auditor is the auditor appointed for reporting on entity, which includes entity financial information I am reporting on. Entity financial information means entity information includes what? Component information. Yes or no? Which includes financial information of components. But who is auditing components? Audited by other auditors. Audited by other auditors. Look at the standard heading, using the work of other auditor. Able to understand? Using the work of another auditor or other auditor, anyway you can use. Okay. Now look at other auditor. Who is the other auditor? He is the component auditor. Other auditor is an auditor. Other auditor is an auditor who is responsible for financial information of a component. You see in the principal auditor, responsible for financial information of entity. Here they are saying other auditor is an auditor responsible for financial information of component, and which the component which is included in financial information audited by principal auditor. So how easily they mentioned is, who is a principal auditor? He is the auditor for the entity, which includes components financial information audited by other auditors. Over. Who is a component auditor? He is an auditor for the component financial information which is included in financial information audited by principal auditor. What is a component? It may be division, branch, subsidiary, joint venture, associate, whose financial information is included in financial information audited by principal auditor. Clear? All of you? Now, what the standard says, the principal auditor is not responsible. Most important, the principal auditor is not responsible for the work of other auditors. Now, this point you must clearly state. The principal auditor, if at all he is using the other auditors for part of the financial information, they must clearly state division of responsibility in the report. Where you will mention this, other matter paragraph you will mention. Very simple. 600 standard say. Now the 600 standard is what they are proposing to amend. Okay, next year it will be, again you will have next year amendment in audit, but of course you'll be qualifying by them. Okay, so but next year your juniors will have this amendment. Fine. 600, drastic improvement in 600 standard. Like what you are reading now and what is going to come tomorrow is completely different. Now you are saying they're not responsible, right? In the future standard, responsibility is there. But of course, exceptions were listed out for that. But okay, so fine. So the standard mainly dealing with I am giving an audit report on standalone financial. But that standalone financials includes 26,000 branch related data also, but that I didn't audit. Then how come you are giving opinion on the entire standalone when you did not audit? That was audited by other auditors. Their reports are given to me. All the other auditors, no, they said everything is true and fair. And I can rely upon them, yes or no? Can I rely upon them? First of all, yes, you can. That is what the introduction standard is saying. You can rely upon auditors, other auditors report. You can rely upon other auditors report. And if at all tomorrow some fraud is there in the branches which is not audited by you, you are not responsible. He is only responsible. You have to mention this fact to shareholders. Otherwise people think what? This fellow only audited entire financial statements which is consisting of 26,000 branches, 50 subsidiary companies, all that. I should tell them that, look, I didn't audit them. Then how come I gave opinion? I gave opinion based on reports of other auditors. Just like how you use my report and then take a judgment. No, I used their report and took a judgment. What's wrong in this? Getting it? And the standard is permitting that. Clear? All of you? Now, so principal auditor is not responsible for the work of other auditors unless there is a reason to doubt their reliability. If at all you got to know that other auditors know at some of the component they colluded with management, you got evidence for that, you must react on it. You cannot have a, you cannot ignore them. If at all you get to know there is an evidence for that, you must react on it. Generally, preface of the standard, you see, generally what normally says, auditor is what ultimately responsible for forming and expressing opinion on financial information, even though when he is delegating work to articles and all. Tomorrow my article is there, because of him I couldn't verify someone particular. He said everything is good. I also busy in the audit closing session, I also signed the balance sheet P&L. Later a very big fraud happened inside that, and I found out that this fellow did not do any basic work also. He just went ahead, snacks, and then came back. Okay, so I discovered one fraud. Tell me, can I complain to I say that my article is responsible? Why are you punishing me? No. 220 standard, what it says? You are only responsible. Engagement partner must take the responsibility, leadership quality. Engagement partner must accept the ultimate responsibility for the audit. Yes or no? That's it. You can't blame him. So that is what the general perception. Ever? When you are relying on the work of independent statutory appointees, nothing but auditors, appointee, new words, unnecessary idiots. Appointer, appointee, what? Auditor they can simply use, no? Yes or no? If at all you are using work of an independent, another statutory auditor on which myself is relying in forming the opinion, the auditor must state this clearly, such reliance. Okay, look at the State Bank of India audit report, how they mentioned it. In other matter paragraph, you see, they clearly mentioned, we did not audit financial statements or information of 6,000 branches, including 35 foreign branches, which are included in standalone financial statements of the bank. You see here, they said one more point here. You see here itself. Okay, the principal auditor, no, when he is relying on other auditor, must clearly state the division of responsibility in the audit report, indicating the extent of work done by other auditors. What extent other auditors have done the work? To what extent? Extent means what? Quantification. Extent means what? Quantification. See how State Bank of India auditors are giving that quantification. Look. So we did not audit the financial statements of 6,000 branches whose financial statements or information reflect total of 23,18,000 crore, total revenue of 1,77,000 crore ended. The financial statements of these 6,000 branches have been audited by branch auditors whose reports have been furnished to us, and our opinion in relation to these amounts and disclosures which are included, no, is purely based on branch auditor report. By mentioning like this, what am I trying to communicate to people? Look, 6,000 branches, 23 lakh crore worth of advances they audited. You saw balance sheet, right? Standalone balance sheet you saw, right? 45 lakhs advance is there, right? 23 lakhs they audit, not me. Okay. Tomorrow, if a fraud is discovered in some other branch, what main auditor is doing, don't call my name. They are responsible for that. Know who is responsible first. It's called indication of division of responsibility. And at the end of the para, you see other matter paragraph requirement. By the way, am I trying to object anything here? No, I'm not objecting anything here. I'm just telling you, I am not responsible for that. He is only responsible for that. I gave opinion on the entire 45 lakhs by relying upon his opinion, which is given on the 23 lakhs. Clear? Next. Now, what if the standard is mainly one more thing? Why standard? This standard has been brought. Okay, responsibility, fine. What if other auditors gave an adverse opinion? How principal auditor has to deal with that situation? If you recollect 143 subsection 3, 143 subsection 3, checklist will be there, 16 items, funding party, intermediary, ultimate beneficiary. Have you able to recollect? In CA enroll it is there, not in final also. Okay, in CA entry itself it is there. You have audit trail point, remember, every company with effect from 1st April 2022 must have an accounting software that has a feature of audit trail. That checklist. Inside that B, inside that subpoint 2, that point says the auditor has to report whether he considered branch auditor's report or not. You should mention that. Whether report of branches received by you and how you dealt with it. You should report that. How you deal with it? As per 600 I will deal. How do I deal with? As per 600. First I will directly discuss reporting requirement. Modified opinion by other auditor. Suppose heading was on the previous page, okay? Suppose modified opinion was given by other auditor. You know, I was given State Bank of India 26,000 branches, no, 6,000 branches, no, 100 auditors gave an adverse opinion. And the report came to me. What should I do? Suppose if the report of other auditor, and if the other auditor issues a modified report, you must check whether it impacts overall financials, what is its materiality, you should check. The branch auditor, no, he will give a modified opinion based on materiality levels, correct? But when a branch auditor is applying materiality concept, will he apply materiality as a whole company point of view or branch point of view? Exactly. So what appears material for branch auditor may not be material from as a whole company point of view, correct? So branch auditor might have given adverse opinion, qualified opinion, disclaimer, whatever reason, material, all that. You see that. Reason, look at. Quantity, look at. See what is its impact on the overall financial statements of the company. You felt it is immaterial, ignore it. You felt it is immaterial, you will ignore it. If the auditor issues, other auditor issues modified report, the principal auditor must assess whether it impacts their own report, and the principal auditor shall document how they are dealt with the qualifications, adverse remarks in the other auditor's report. Other auditor's report contains some qualifications and adverse remarks, right? How you dealt with them, how you considered that it is negligible, immaterial, on what basis you decided, you must document it. And if the principal auditor, if at all you are not able to use other auditor report, if you are not able to use other auditor report and not performed sufficient procedures, they should issue a qualified or disclaimer of opinion on the overall financials unless the component is immaterial. If the component is immaterial, that's a negligible component, that audit report I did not get, you don't have to worry. Suppose there's a material component and you did not get audit report of that component, lack of evidence, depending upon materiality and pervasiveness at overall company financial statement level, you should decide which opinion, qualified or disclaimer, you should decide. Everybody write about reporting by principal auditor when a modified opinion is issued by other auditor. A case study question for 4 or 5 marks question there. Understood? Everybody. So modified opinion by other auditor. If the other auditor issues a modified report, the principal auditor must assess whether it impacts their own report, document how qualifications are considered by you and dealt by you, document it, and if you are unable to use, give a qualified or disclaimer of opinion. This is what the standards. Clear? Next, coordination between auditors. Tell me, obviously principal auditor and other auditor must have a sufficient proper coordination, right? Yes or no? Like what? Sufficient coordination is necessary between principal auditor and other auditors. This may involve written communications as well. Like what is it? The other auditor should cooperate with principal auditor, alerting them to significant findings and adhering to the timetable he told me. You know, there is something called principal audit procedure. There is something called principal audit procedures. What are principal audit procedures? You know, I must tell the timetable to other auditor. I must tell the timetable to other auditor. Look, you have to finish audit by May 10th. Then only I can do consolidation, everything, all that audit reports by May 25. It's a listed company. By May 31st, we should file with the SEBI. So if you complete by May 10th, I will take another 10 to 15 days for entire consolidation, review all that. Then I will file, I will give to the company. Company will then approve the financial statements. Then I will give the audit report. That entire process takes time. So other auditor has to cooperate, principal auditor, alerting them any significant findings. Suppose other auditor found some very big issue and he felt that it is there everywhere in the company because there is some system failure is there. In system some loophole is there. Bank audit you are doing, in one of the system there is a loophole. Other auditor shall inform the principal auditor, sir, this is a loophole not just at branch level, sir, this is affecting at the company level. Same way, principal auditor also should notify other auditor any important matters that affect their work. If I find something in my risk assessment process, I found some system weaknesses, I should communicate other auditors. Look, other auditor, these are the system weaknesses are there in the CBS, core banking solution software. You please be careful when you're doing bank audit. These areas you verify. Able to understand. That's why you see one of the important thing that principal auditor has to procedures to be performed when using the work of other auditors. Special considerations. The principal auditor shall communicate other auditors what are the special issues they should focus on. Understood? So each auditor should communicate to other auditor. Branch auditor should communicate to principal auditor what are the matters that are requiring significant attention of the principal auditor. Same way, principal auditor has to communicate to branch auditor what are the matters requiring significant attention. By the way, Once you are using SF 600 standard, let us stop using the word branch. For the sake of discussion, I'm using the word branch. Component auditor. That's the right phrase always. Okay, never read as a branch audit concept. Read always it as component audit. So then finally, the principal auditor may require the other auditor. You may use the word component auditor or other auditor because the standard heading contains other auditor. Let us use the other auditor word. The principal auditor may require other auditor to complete a detailed questionnaire for information needed. If required, no, I will send him a questionnaire. What are all works he did? I will ask him to fill the checklist and questionnaire and then send me back. And other auditor should coordinate, should cooperate for that. Coordination, this itself can be asked as a 4 marks, and they have tested many times. Clear? Next. Now, okay, this is regarding coordination between them. Like, first of all, what are the various procedures principal auditor has to do? In entire 600 standard is drafted from whose perspective actually? Using the work of other auditor means who is using? Principal auditor. So which means the standard is predominantly applicable for principal auditor. Okay, what you have to do? What are principal auditor procedures? What you have to do? You have a right to visit and examine accounts of a component. First thing, you have a right. Standard also says you have a right. Companies Act says you have a right. Yes or no? The principal auditor may have right to visit a component and review its financial records if required by law. If the principal auditor, we generally don't visit. Why? Because we generally rely upon their component auditor's work unless some special circumstances requiring me to go for a direct review. Understood? That is one. First procedure, I have a right to visit the other auditor. Second one, I have a right. This is what the major amendment which they are bringing in the upcoming. I have to assess competence of the other auditor before I use his work. I must check whether he is competent or not. When this requirement applies, if other auditor is not a member of the ICA, foreign branches this requires. Suppose you might have seen in Companies Act 139 subsection 8, foreign branches. If at all a branch is there outside India, that audit can be performed by the company auditor, another chartered accountant, or an auditor appointed as per law of that country. Any of them can be appointed. If a third person is appointed, that country auditor is appointed, I don't know how he will do the audit. Yes or no? You see, if I don't know how many of you have seen group audit chapter. How many of you here already have seen the audit subject earlier? Okay, fine. Okay, you have seen. We have a chapter called group audit. Inside that we will discuss once again this topic. Principal auditor, what audit framework is following? Component auditor, what audit framework? See, financial reporting framework, the same way audit frameworks are also there. We follow IAS framework, International Auditing Standard framework. US follows PCAOB framework. European Union follows EU audit framework. So we do audit in different frameworks. Suppose if my branch auditor is in foreign country and for him, suppose if this company has a branch in America, US, okay, there they follow PCAOB framework. And between PCAOB framework and my framework, some requirements are different. Able to understand? So maybe there, the level of competence that I require here may not be there. Able to understand? So that time I generally, before relying on another auditor work, the principal auditor must evaluate their competence, especially if the other auditor is not a member of the institute. What is the example for this? Nothing but foreign component. In India, if it is a company, branch auditor must also be a chartered accountant. Remember. So there is no possibility that branch auditor can be a non-member. It's impossible in India. So when they say not a member of the institute, they're talking about which component? Foreign component, foreign subsidiary, foreign branch. Clear? All of you. You're able to understand the difference in learning. Contextual learning, that's the meaning. Means you should understand what you're reading always. Next. First point is what? You have a right to visit and examine component. You have a right to visit and verify component. You have to verify competence of the other auditor, especially when he is not a member of the institute. And there are some procedures to be performed when you are using other auditor work. This itself can be asked as a 4 marks question. What are the procedures to be performed when using the work of other auditor? What are the principal auditor procedures when the principal auditor is using the work of other auditor? When you will first of all decide to use after assessing their competence. After assessing their competence, you decided to use their work. Now what you will perform? The principal auditor should perform procedures to ensure adequacy of the work done by other auditors. Nothing but what? Whether first of all other auditors work is adequate or not, I have to verify first. How? At the planning stage itself, tell other auditors, advise them how their work is going to be used by me, and coordinate the efforts. Both of you coordinate. I should tell the other auditors how his work is relevant for me. So look, I should tell him, look, only when you do audit of the component, that component information is what used here in consolidation. I should give my opinion as a whole on the consolidation. Remember, for the component, you're only responsible. I need to tell him all this. So how the use of other auditors' work is going to be made by principal auditor? I should tell him, only once you complete the work, I can give my report. Without you giving your report, I cannot give my report. And I should also tell him, I should also inform other auditors about areas requiring special attention, like intercomponent transaction, audit timetable. I should tell him, look, this is a timeline within which you have to complete. And in this company, we at the beginning itself did risk assessment. In this, there is one software module is there in the bank which is dealing with interest on fixed deposits which are matured. There is a fixed deposit which are matured. As on 31st March, bank is not creating any outstanding provision amount. When they see, very simple. If a fixed deposit matures, for example, 31st January fixed deposit matured. Bank, they stopped application of interest because maturity date is over. Anytime customer can come and withdraw. So, but customers, they didn't withdraw. So many customers are there who did not came and withdraw the fixed deposit which is matured. As on 31st March, bank has to create for these 2 months savings interest rate provision. They should create interest for savings interest rate, because now it became a demand deposit. The moment fixed deposit matured, it became a demand deposit. Whenever customer comes, bank has to give back. But customer has not claimed it. As on 31st March, bank has approximately 1 lakh crore worth of fixed deposit. 2 months, savings interest rate 2% into 12 by 2 by 12. Imagine the number, thousands of crores it will come. Some 500, 600 or 1000 crores it will come. Bank did not create. When I asked the bank manager, why this provision is not created, sir, already matured, sir, why should we create? As per RBI circular, you should pay SB interest rate. You didn't create a provision for that. If customer claimed it, you have to pay it, right? So you should recognize. Which means company bank software, the bank software does not have the feature to recognize provision for interest at savings rate on expired fixed deposit. This will affect every branch of the company. I should inform the other auditor. Look, whether this provision is how much you should calculate there, and tell the company to include an adjustment entry, rectification entry for that. Leo, all of you understood? So inform the other auditors about areas requiring special consideration, and also advise other auditors what are the accounting requirements, what are the auditing requirements. I should tell him, look, this company is subject to IFC reporting, you should give IFC report. This company is having CARO applicability, you should give CARO report. Leo, next. So what are principal auditor's procedure? At the planning stage itself, I should tell them how his work is useful to me, and I should coordinate. And I should tell him what are the areas requiring special considerations, and I should also tell him the timetable. And I should also tell him what are the reporting requirements applicable under financial reporting framework as well as auditing frameworks. Clear? Then I can also do one more. I can review a written summary of procedures of other auditors. See, technically, I can rely upon his word unless there is a doubt. Why I will ask him what procedure he did? Generally, we don't do this. We don't have to review their work, because they are also statutory appointees. They are statutory auditors just like you. If they do something wrong, they are only answerable. You need not answer. In fact, you are telling that in division of responsibility. You are telling division of responsibility in other matter paragraph. Yes or no? So by indicating that, you are indirectly communicating to everybody, lawmaker, shareholders, everybody, that component information is not audited by you. Your opinion on the component information is purely based upon their report. You are communicating that. You don't have to review their work in reality. But if there is a circumstance where the principal auditor felt it is necessary for him to review the work of other auditor, he can ask this. The principal auditor may discuss audit procedures with other auditors. Like I can ask him what procedures you did, how you performed audit, or I can review summary of their procedures and findings. How I will review? I will send him a questionnaire. I will send him a checklist. How we send it to clients questionnaires and checklist, same way I will send some questionnaires to branch auditors. I'll ask him to fill and give. And at below, what are the point they're saying? The principal auditor may require a complete questionnaire and branch auditor has to reply it. The coordination point says the branch auditor has to, component auditor has to reply for it. Understood? So the principal auditor may review a summary of audit procedures performed by other auditor, or may require the other auditor to fill a questionnaire or checklist that is sent by principal auditor. Second, the principal auditor may also visit other auditor. You can meet him. Now here one question is, can principal auditor request working papers, documentation of other auditors? He can. Absolutely he can request, but he can't demand it. If other auditor decided, sorry, I will not share because my working papers are containing my own style of audit procedure which I don't want to reveal to you. Are you a peer reviewer? Are you a quality reviewer? Why should I review? Why should I show it to you? No. You are just a principal auditor. I am a branch auditor. Both of us are statutory appointees. Able to understand? A branch auditor, a component auditor is not bound to disclose working papers to principal auditor. Point you remember. That's why what principal auditor can do, you can meet him, you can talk to him, you can send him a questionnaire, you can send him a checklist, all that. He will fill. What information you want, you give me, I will fill it and give you. But I will not give you my working paper. Principal auditor can do nothing here because he don't have any right on that. SQC, documentation is ownership of the auditor. Correct. Next, the timing, the nature, timing, extent of procedures depend on circumstances of, and by the way, whether he will visit, whether he will review, all this depends on what? The nature, timing, extent of the above procedures. Nothing but it's actually what? Of above. You can write the word above. The nature, timing and extent of above procedures depends on circumstances and principal auditor's knowledge of the other auditor's professional competence. If I know that he is a very competent fellow, he is also a member of ICA, he is also a stat auditor, he is a stat auditor as per RBI requirement, as per, he also met with eligibility criteria. If at all I have this competence, all the clarity, I will not even review his work. Next, now definitely other auditor will have some findings, right? Okay, he will have some findings, no? In the audit report he would have told you, or maybe when you sent a checklist and questionnaire, no, that time he would have responded with some important findings, significant findings in other auditors' work. What principal auditor has to do with this? First discuss what are the audit findings and other financial matters with the other auditor and component management if need. If at all some significant finding is there, what is a significant finding? 260 standard says what are significant findings in audit? Circumstances that require modified opinion. Circumstances that require modified opinion. For example, if there is a material misstatement in the financial statements, that's a significant finding by the auditor. Suppose we are facing significant difficulty in doing audit, that's one of the significant finding. That is also treated as one of the significant finding. Like what? When we are facing difficulty in doing audit, 260 standard says that significant finding means difficulty in doing audit. Difficulty in doing audit. I think I have not given gap related PDF, I think so. Gap is not given to you. Second chapter, did I give second chapter? Third only it was there, right? Okay, fine. I think in that 260 will not be there. 260 is covered in second chapter, gap. Okay, fine, it's okay. Okay, fine. It is there in the second chapter. Okay, anyhow, when we come there, I will sync all these points once again. Don't worry. So, if at all there is significant finding, no, in other auditors' work, discuss with him, discuss with component management and try to resolve it. Next, additionally, the principal auditor may decide to apply supplementary procedures to verify records or financial statements if necessary. MCQ. Okay. These supplementary tests can be conducted either by the principal auditor, or I can tell the other auditor to do the supplementary testing. He already completed his audit work. But I have some doubts, especially in bank example. Just now I told, no, fixed deposits, how many were mature. Other auditor gave me a report. I forgot to communicate at the beginning itself to him regarding this particular point. Then I told him, can you do some testing, because the branch also has some fixed deposits matured but not yet claimed by the customer. Whether bank created provision or not, verify. If not created, how much provision amount is coming, verify. Accordingly, ask the management of the branch to create a provision for that. I asked him to do supplementary testing. He able to understand. You remember company audit chapter, government audit, government C&AG can do supplementary audit, supplementary testing. Where what C&AG? C&AG will instruct the stat auditor himself to do certain additional procedure. Same way, I'm a principal auditor. I can instruct my other auditor to do some supplementary procedure. If he is not doing, I will go and do. Simple. Clear? So additionally, the principal auditor may decide to apply supplementary procedures to verify records if necessary. I can do this supplementary procedure. How I will do? Either principal auditor himself will do or the other auditor, depending upon the situation. Clear? And when the other auditor is not professionally qualified, nothing but he is not a chartered accountant, he is a member of some other regulatory body. In some cases, the other auditor may not be professionally qualified. For example, if a component is in foreign country where laws or regulations allow, this may be acceptable. This may be acceptable. Finally, okay, principal auditor documentation responsibility. This itself can be asked as a 4-mark question. What are the principal auditor's documentation requirement? What principal auditor shall document? Indirectly, they are asking you under SA 600 what you should document. What you should document? You must document what components you audited, procedures performed, conclusions reached. Sometimes, no, for example, no, State Bank of India joint auditors were there, right? Top 20 components they only have to audit. RBI rule, that is. As per RBI circular, top 20 components by asset size, principal auditor only has to audit. Remaining components will be audited by other auditors. This includes recording discussions with other auditor, reviewing their written procedures, like, you know, what are all I discussed with him, all that. Okay, so principal auditor must document audited component. Okay, I think this is regarding, okay, fine, you might have audited it, that you should document anyhow. You must document audited components list. Yeah, branch has 6,000 branches were there which are audited by principal audit, which are audited by other auditor. Audited components data you should document. You're getting it? Because in State Bank of India, no, 19,000 branches were not audited. 19,000 components were not audited. However, if sufficient audit evidence confirms compliance with quality control policies, the principal auditor need not document reasons for limiting the procedure. If other auditor's report is not unmodified, nothing but modified, if other auditor report is modified, the principal auditor must document how they addressed qualifications, adverse remarks when forming their own report. Look at this. If there is a sufficient audit evidence confirming compliance with quality control policies, this I will discuss in SQC standard. This I will discuss in SQC standard. Quality control policies and processes is a bit complex point. At this moment, let us not discuss. We will discuss in a separate standard. First chapter is quality control. And I bet if you directly read first chapter, you will not understand anything. You will leave audit subject. You should never read first chapter. Quality control is a very advanced standard that talks about what? It talks about the audit process. That's why first you should understand what is our objective, how to fulfill our objective. First, if you understand that in a complete objective, then you can understand one by one element. You're able to understand. So structurally, we are going one by one. We should not touch quality control, especially many are first time listeners are there. First time I cannot touch quality control standard. You see the quality control standard heading itself, you will get a heartbreak. You see quality control standard heading? Quality control for firms performing audit, review of historical financial information and other assurance and related services. Quality control for firms that are performing audit, review of historical financial information, other assurance and related services. That's it. That's the heading. Like only when you understand engagement standard overview, quality control standard heading can be remembered to some extent. Only when you understand, okay, there are some assurance engagement, non-assurance engagement, assurance is again audit, review, other assurance, then remaining or treated as related service. If you understand entire this list, then heading can be easy to remember. Clear? We'll discuss this point. Let us keep this point pending. Okay, this point I will keep it pending. It's not a complicated point, but at this moment you can't understand this because that example is a bit difficult to me to explain you at this moment. Okay, so I will discuss in quality control that example directly. Next, suppose, so what are all you should document? First, principal auditor must document what are the components that were audited and what procedures he performed. What procedures you performed? All these procedures, principal audit procedure, you visited, you assessed competence of the other auditor, you gave him some instructions at planning stage, you gave him some considerations, you told him some reporting requirements, you reviewed a written summary of other auditor through checklist and questionnaire, you did some, there are some significant findings in other auditors where you discussed with him, you discussed with component management, yes or no, and when he is not professionally qualified, you assessed his competence levels, and all that. So what are all you should document? The auditor shall document discussions that you made with him, reviewing the written procedures, yes or no, you should document reviewing the written procedures. So what are all audited components and what are the procedures performed, what conclusions you have taken. So what components are audited by component auditors, what procedures you performed, what conclusions you have taken. 3 issues you have to document. Okay, next, second one, this includes recording discussion with other auditor and reviewing their written responsibilities. That's what examples I gave 6 examples here. What are all principal audit procedures were there, all that you should document, yes or no. Here 2 examples only they give. This include discussion you should document, reviewing their written procedure. What are all audit procedures? Right to visit, assessing competence, procedures, reviewing written summary, considering significant findings of other auditor. When the other auditor is not professional qualified, what are all you verify? And documentation is also your procedure only. That's why it is also part of procedure. Clear? All of you? Yes. Okay, next, once I finish this, I'll revise once. Okay, next, now finally, just 1 minute. Then finally, acceptance as principal auditor. This was tested in November 22 attempt or somewhere. Specifically, I remember this question. Acceptance. Suppose no, State Bank of India approached you. For example, you started a practice and they approached you. They wanted to appoint you as a principal auditor. You should not accept it first. You must do the following procedures. You must do the following procedures before. Recently Coffee Day, CCD, was levied a penalty. CCD in 2024 August or September month. Okay. This KPMG is the auditor for them. And actually what happened is, briefly what I know is, holding company is there. For holding company, KPMG is the auditor. But holding company, major business is not happening. There's a subsidiary company in which major substantial transactions are happening. And that is audited by a different audit firm. In that subsidiary company, a fraud happened. Fund transfers, hawala, all that, money laundering transactions and all happened. Now, the NFRA question KPMG, what are you doing when subsidiary company, so many operations are happening? Then this BSR and Co replied, this KPMG replied, we are not the auditors of the component. Look at our SA 600. We are not responsible for that. But it's a significant component. It's a major component. Major business is happening there. Major this thing is happening here. Then how did you accept your role as a principal auditor then? Principal auditor means you must have significant role in the audit, not the component auditors. Yes or no? A component is audited by a component. The one where the fraud happened, that's a major component. Entire business is happening there. Entire fund transfers are happening there. Entire this money laundering is happening there. And you are simply escaping saying you relied upon his audit report and gave an opinion. Don't you have a responsibility for listed company to also check international auditing standards? He says, no, for us international auditing standards not applicable. We are not liable for that. We are liable to do audit as per standards on auditing. That is when NFRA decided. Okay, this is what happening in India. In some companies, principal auditor is doing the main company audit, which hardly transacts anything. And the subsidiary company is being audited by other auditors. Now what amendment they are proposing in SA 600? You should not accept as a principal auditor if at all you are not doing the major transaction audit. If at all you are not doing audit, you shouldn't accept. You see bank guidelines, you see RBI guidelines. Principal auditor has to do top 20 branches. That is in line with international requirement. Being a principal auditor, you must have a predominant participation in audit. You are just for namesake principal auditor. How come you? On this particular clause they violated. Finally, NFRA fitted them under this clause and levied penalty. You violated under SA 600 acceptance of principal auditor, you didn't perform that procedure. If at all you have done this procedure carefully before you accept the audit, you could have not accepted this. That's not important question for. Yeah, okay. So what is it saying? The auditor must assess. The auditor must assess whether their participation is sufficient to act as principal auditor. So see how cleverly they drafted. The principal auditor, the auditor, because you have not yet become principal auditor. The auditor should assess whether their participation in this company audit is sufficient so that they can become a principal. Coffee Day, this point they failed to prove. KPMG, they couldn't prove this point. Your participation is not sufficient to act as a principal. For example, like what points? How much materiality portion that you are going to audit? Negligible. How did you accept the audit then? How did you accept to be a holding company auditor? How did you? You are not auditing material financial information which is audited by other auditor. How did you accept? Why you did not consider 600 requirement? Understood. What is the materiality of the portion audited by principal auditor? How much knowledge of business you have on the components? What is the risk of MMS that is being audited by component auditors? What is the risk of MMS in components which is being audited by other auditor? Whether principal auditor need to perform additional procedures to have significant participation in audit of components. Fine, you didn't do this procedure, but at least when you're reviewing consolidated financials and standalone financials, you know clearly that standalone financials hardly has any transaction. Consolidated numbers are very bigger. That itself shows that major business is not happening in the holding company. Major business is happening in subsidiary company. What additional procedures you performed regarding subsidiary company so that you can prove that you participated significantly? Understood? You understood this? So you need to check, like for example, these are the questions which NFRA posed them. These are the questions which NFRA asked this BSR and Co, this KPMG. You are auditing, you are a principal auditor for holding company. You know standalone financial. You saw consolidated. And standalone financials all are small numbers. Consolidation appears big numbers. That itself shows you are not significantly participating in the entire overall audit. Yes or no? So then how did you accept as a principal auditor? On these logics, they levied 10 crore penalty on KPMG, 50 lakh penalty on the engagement part, 25 lakh penalty on the engagement quality control reviewer. Getting it? Who is an engagement quality control reviewer? We will discuss in SQC standard. Understood? So this was asked in November attempt or somewhere. 4 marks question it was asked. Acceptance of principal audit. Can I accept? A company came and asked me, sir, can you be our auditor of a company? Immediately you should check. Does it have subsidiaries? Does it have branches? Is it asking me only for this company or subsidiaries also? If so, subsidiaries are there. Is this company major business is happening in this company or subsidiaries? If major business is happening in subsidiaries, ask them, who are the auditor of subsidiary? Are you recommending me? If so, if I will act as holding and I will act as subsidiary. If you are giving me both, then fine. If you're only giving me holding company audit, it's not possible for me. It's risky for me. Able to understand? This point says that. All of you, very cleverly, some companies know, they choose principal holding company auditors, a small audit firm they'll choose. Subsidiary companies, they'll give to big audit firms, or in order to risk mitigation plan, Big Four, they will be given holding company audit. Don't do subsidiary, risk is involved. Small company, some small audit firm will bring. They will do this. Tomorrow, if some issue comes, they will go. You're getting it? The Big Four can be protected. Able to understand? This was the behind arrangement. Of course, NFRA couldn't prove it. NFRA couldn't prove it. Don't you think obviously KPMG will be aware of this? They know this. They know this. They obviously would have known this particular point. They know that they should not accept the principal. They should not accept as the principal auditor. Correct? If possible, see that news. Okay, PSR and Co levied penalty with a penalty of 10 crore by NFRA. Entire situation you read, you will understand. This is a point where they tested, they failed in this. So finally, what NFRA said, you failed to comply with requirement of SA 600 regarding acceptance of principle. You failed to comply with auditing standard requirement. Accordingly, your quality control system failed. SQC failed, SA 600 failed, automatically failure to comply with requirements of professional standard, schedule 2, professional ethics, all that and all also can be applied. Okay, anyhow, professional ethics we have not yet started, we'll discuss there. Clear? With this, entire SA 600 is completed. Once look at briefly how I will revise this standard, one of the lengthiest, one of the complex standard. Okay, so see how I am going to revise it. You know, whenever you're reading a lengthy standard, you should always revise it immediately. Don't go to the next standard before revising it. So division, from here you read enough. Next time also you read from here. The principal auditor is not responsible for work of other auditor unless there is a doubt about their reliability. One, the principal auditor ordinarily relies upon other auditor for part of the financial information, and in such, if the principal auditor relies on other auditor for parts of the financial information which is audited by them, they must clearly state the division of responsibility in the report. What they need to state? Indicating the extent of work done by other auditors. In State Bank of India, they show 23 lakh crore worth of advances, 1.7 lakh crore worth of interest income is audited by other auditors. Principal auditor, he is responsible for reporting on the financial information of the entity, which includes financial information of components audited by other auditors. Who is other auditor? He is responsible for financial information. Who is responsible for financial information of component which is included in financial information audited by principal auditor? Component, division, branch, subsidiary, joint venture, or some other entity whose information is included in information audited by principal auditor. Next, when you can accept as a principal auditor, the auditor must check whether their participation is sufficient to act as a principal auditor. This you must check before accepting the appointment. Considerations, what you will consider, whether your participation is sufficient or not, what you will consider, how much materiality portion I am auditing, what is my knowledge of the component, how much risk is there in the components which is audited by other auditor, whether if at all I accepted as an auditor for this holding company, whether whatever procedures I am performing, getting it, like what are all procedures I should perform, so that it will lead to a significant participation of the principal auditor. It should appear that principal auditor is significantly participating in audit. It should not appear like you are just reporting. Clear? Next, what are the audit procedures? You have a right to visit and examine accounts of a component. Generally, the principal auditor can rely on their work unless some circumstances there where you feel like directly reviewing it. Next, before relying on another audit work, you must evaluate their competence, especially when the other auditor is not a member of the institute. What are the procedures to be performed when you're using the work of other auditor? At planning stage, advise other auditors of use of their work, how principal auditor is going to use their work, and coordinate efforts. Special, inform other auditors about areas according to you require special attention, intercomponent transactions, and timetable for completion of the audit. Then reporting, advise the other auditor of accounting and audit reporting if required. The principal auditor may discuss audit procedures with other auditor or may review a summary of their procedures and findings through a questionnaire. If required, you may visit him, yes or no, and these extent, whether you will visit whether you will review through questionnaire and all, the extent of these procedures depends upon competence of the other auditor. How much knowledge I have regarding his competence, that decides me how much I should review about his work. Clear? Then consider significant findings. The principal auditor may discuss audit findings and other financial matters with the other auditor and component management if needed. If at all some significant finding is there, I will discuss with him, I will discuss with that management and try to resolve it. Additionally, if at all some significant issues are there, I will apply supplementary procedures to verify records and financial statements if necessary. These supplementary tests, either principal auditor can conduct or other auditor can conduct depending upon the circumstance. Finally, principal auditor shall document what are the components audited by other auditors, nothing but, and what procedures you performed, what conclusions you reached. Further, example like discussions you did, reviewing their work, all that. And if other auditor report is modified, not unmodified means nothing, but if other auditor report is modified, the principal auditor must document how they addressed qualifications, adverse remarks when forming their own report. Getting it? Finally, you must have a proper coordination with other auditor, like written communications, communicating the other auditor any, alerting them about significant findings, communicating them the timetable. Same way other auditor should communicate me, same way I should communicate him any matters which are affecting other auditors. Other auditor should communicate me any matters that are affecting my work. The principal auditor may sometimes require other auditor to complete a detailed questionnaire for information needed. That is what already given in the principal audit procedure. Other auditor should coordinate. Clear? Finally, sir, other auditor gave a modified opinion. What principal auditor has to do? If other auditor issues a modified report, assess whether it impacts my own report. Principal auditor should document how they dealt with qualifications, adverse remarks in the other auditor report. Suppose if management is not letting me use the other auditor's work, getting it, or you are unable to perform the above procedures, principal audit procedures, but they're read, you are unable to perform, you sent him a checklist, he is not responding. Okay, in such a case, you must issue a qualified or disclaimer of opinion unless the component is immaterial. Easy or not? You read another 2 to 3 times, you will get it. Confident? Yes. So we'll wind up the session. 600 is completed, 299 is completed, 700 is completed, 706 is also completed, 700 is completed, 700, 705, 706, 600, 299. 5 standards we typically completed. 706 is actually over. Technically speaking, 706 is over. Okay, we'll summarize once tomorrow in the next session, and then we'll continue further. Clear all of you? Yes.